fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Battles aplenty came last time out at Silverstone. Here today, though, it's going to be a different challenge. We take a look at what happened 1 week ago here at Silverstone. They can see yellow wall tyres to the championship leader, Mateo Uglotti. This is what happened at the back end of lap number 1. Simon Schulze running into troubles, and there is one Mr. Jorge Martinez will go on board. This is what he saw straight back across the circuit, and a huge trip through the grass. He actually did tap a little bit of wall here on SimSpeed TV. With some great battling going on between Dimov and also Oliveira out there on circuit, getting incredibly close together in one of the most amazing battles. My name's Shakespeare, joined alongside by Cameron Dance to the ride here at the iRacing Grand Prix Series, round 5 from circuit Gilles Villeneuve. We take another little look then at this move coming in, down on the inside, and it's just like that. It's so simple sometimes when you get some good moves, and then it was Jacob Swiderski behind who wanted in. Cam, this is where we got to the mid part of the race, and we're seeing these overtakes. There's Swiderski trying to get it down on the inside, but he has to take the long road here to make this pass.
Yeah, he certainly does. And we saw this battle go on for quite some time between Varanen and also Swiderski, and they just did not leave each other alone all race long. And there was several battles as well that were just absolutely incredible. And then a few other moments and a few drivers getting caught out by rather unfortunate times catching curbs and AstroTurf and grass and all that sort of stuff. But it was Uglotti really surprised everybody with the alternate strategy of being on the hard medium tyre, and just absolutely blowing by everybody who was on older tyres.
Yeah, this is Luke Dowding here in the NHR Esports car who finds himself at the hands of Uglotti. He moves to the outside to try and pick up this place and get that position. And as he tries it and as he looks to try and make the move, he gets the inside then at Luffield corner. And this is a pretty strong pickup then for a place as he moved up one more in terms of his battling out there on track. They can see as well Swiderski losing out on a place, or sorry, Matt Wood even here, as this would be a little move from Martinez to get himself down the inside and picking up a position absolutely fantastically with that one. Then Matt Wood actually came down into the pits from the race lead, and they can see that big lockup cam on the brakes. That cost him his entire race.
Yeah, it certainly did. It really did cost him a lot of time, and unfortunately, he ended up being given a stop and hold penalty, which really didn't end too well for him. But the battle for the lead really did go off in the end with Uglotti on brand new tyres. Unfortunately, contact between the two of them resulted in Uglotti having to go off-road and ending up with a damaged front wing, which left the door open for Jorge Martinez to pretty much steal the win off both of them.
Exactly. Tapio Markela there was the driver in front, and well, for how much longer was the question? Well, DRS made sure that it wasn't going to be for very long at all. He had to take the long route around to try and pick this one up, but Jorge Martinez did exactly what he needed to do down on the inside. And then here's a 2-for-1 special for you. The position coming in, but there's so much damage on that front wing. You could see it there, the front right end plate all crinkled up. And your race victor come the end of proceedings, Jorge Martinez, the one who comes along and picks up exactly what is needed for round 4 of the championship. But of course, it's going to be a big key where we are going to today for round 5 overall then of this championship perspective, because we are moving ourselves over to Canada and to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Quebec. And it's one which I'm sure many a person has looked at and gone, this is one I definitely want to target. You got the likes of Detroit and Toronto over there, but the big key is to the St. Lawrence River and how these drivers are going to be tackling this very, very tough circuit. The big 2 long straights, of course, with DRS is going to be absolutely key and huge. It's not the longest run to turn number 1, only 270 meters, but 4.361 kilometers and 14 turns of amazing racing action to come along. It is chicane, it's stop-start, and it is very, very close as well in terms of their combat action. Cam, we're just going to go over and move on in just a second here to the flying lap around this circuit, Gilles Villeneuve, which of course is going to be provided to us by the virtual racing school, and a driver which every driver has known so much about in the past, and that is the legendary Martin Kroenke.
Yeah, absolutely. No better driver to take us on an onboard lap around what is a pretty frightening, but also very, very quick lap, and also a very, very busy one indeed around what is a street circuit coming down the start-finish straight, maxing out the gear into 8th gear. DRS on as well, starting back at the start of the, end of the chicane, and then coming through the first sector, very tight, hugging the inside, being careful not to get on the power too greedy, especially at a turn number 2, and then heading down towards 3 and 4, and using all the curb as much as you can to maximize your time, then through the fast section of 5 and 6 before hitting the brakes for turn 6 and 7 and hugging those curbs once again, but being not too gritty on the powers. It's very easy to lose that rear end and then down the back end straight of the circuit towards 8 and 9. Again, a very tough chicane to get through, especially with that big sausage curb on the inside of each side, and hit that too much as it can unsettle the car. DRS activation zone just back there on the run towards turn number 10, the famous hairpin where all sorts of drama has happened over the years before getting back on the power as early as you can to head towards turn 11 and the run down the back straight towards turn 12. DRS activation zone just as you cross the little kink, and then as you come down towards the final chicane, using as much curb as you can on each side. Usually it tends to be the fastest way of using maximum amounts on the right hand side and a little bit on the left, and that is a lap of Montreal for you.
Incredible how he takes that final chicane in 4th gear, does Martin Kroenke. But we now will have the ability, hopefully, to move on towards qualifying and how everybody is stacking up at the moment. Those first times are coming in on the board. Matt Wood is currently at the top, 112.965. He's 3/10 clear of Tapio Markela. Chabi Rose is there in 3rd position. He chose to skip last week in terms of his battles going on that he wants. But it's a huge split today of 28 drivers, Cam, which makes life incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it certainly does, because it's going to be very, very busy out there, especially in a race sense in the first few laps at least. So we'll have to see what happens and who's going to end up where. But I wouldn't be surprised if we possibly do see drivers running into a few issues here and there, especially at that hairpin where there's going to be probably plenty of checking up going on.
Hopefully we can get ourselves a little bit more of a look than just the iRacing Grand Prix Series logo right now, but some brilliant battling in qualifying going on. We've got our focus and attention here on Chabi Rose, who is in 3rd position at the moment. The young starlet, the Spaniard, who will want to try and gain those places and gain those times here in qualifying. 3 minutes to find that time, and of course this is closed qualifying conditions, so you're not going to be able to improve too much on the times that are available. You only get 2 laps, and if you use up all of your 2 laps, that's it. There's nothing more that you can do about it. Rose to the line, puts a 13 flat down, goes into 2nd position right now here, and that's going to be really key in terms of these laps where we see them, because every driver is searching for just that bit of time. Martinez going 7th.
Yeah, they certainly are looking for every little bit of time, and it's very easy to get tripped up on yourself and also lose that time as well just by not taking it or not being as aggressive as you possibly can. Uglotti crosses the line though and sets 112.9, puts himself on 2nd at the moment, just behind Matt Wood by absolutely nothing, but very, very close regardless between those top 3 especially.
Yes, so Uglotti in 2nd, Chabi Rose in 3rd, and Tapio Markela then moving on into 4th position at this stage around the circuit here, as we focus on Mateo Uglotti right now out there on circuit, trying to improve on his time. He's got 1 more lap in the back pocket that he can use, try and improve of the leading drivers out there here today. So he'll be definitely hoping that he's got it as he comes into the 3rd sector of the lap in the next couple of moments. This is the Kubica section of track where he had his horrible 2007 crash there over on the left-hand side. It didn't really work out for him on that occasion, but Mateo Ugolotti's just got this final straight and that very tough chicane, that Wall of Champions. He only needs to find himself 23 thousandths of a second to move up into what is pole position. He goes through the final couple of corners, stays well away from those big sausage curves as he makes the drive to the line. 1:12.667, pole position by nearly 3:10.
Yeah, very, very solid lap there by Uglotti to put himself with that massive margin as well, especially around this sort of a circuit. To have 3/10 up your sleeve is quite an achievement. So he certainly is looking strong for the race, and he's certainly looking like he's going to be a very good contender so long as the race that goes to plan for him.
Ray Griffioen then is down in 20th position, trying to make progress over the line, and does remain in the 20th position. So pretty much everyone now is over the line and finished. Let's get ourselves up for you. The starting grid for today's work. It is Mateo Uglotti on pole position, 1:12.667, and we'll have Matt Wood, who seemingly doesn't get much luck on a Saturday, in second position, 1:12.966. Chabi Rose starts third, in with Tapio Markela in fourth, with Luke Dowding and Samuli Veiranen making the top six. Row four sees Diogo Oliveira and Jorge Martinez, two very different styles of driving those two drivers have, with Nico Veiranen then the second of the Veiranen brothers, along with Dennis Branch rounding out the top 10.
Then you're going to have Ronaldo Augusto and Ben Hurrell just outside the top 10 on row 6. Row 7 is going to be Klaus Seamitz and Amelia Stanciu, followed by Cedric Beale and Stephen Chantel rounding out the top 16. 17th and 18th will be Cleve Toffoli and Liam Buckley, followed by Nicola Lee and Ray Griffioen rounding out the top 20.
Exactly, and then going through the final drivers, Nathaniel Porter will start this one then in 21st position, which is his car number today. John Owens 22nd with Kent Nielsen and also Philip Yates. You've got Antonino Sugro there in 25th with Andreas Nilsson, Tamashane and John Pat Kelly, making the 28 drivers looking to line themselves up onto the starting grid. They have 2 minutes to do so, or they will be starting from pit lane, trying to work out what they've got to offer here today. We've had 4 very, very interesting races so far to start this season. Now we're in mid-season conditions here. Round 5, this is where you start putting the points in the bank. You start finding form, and if you have that form, you start now running the table and working out, okay, if I get a good one here and a good one here and a good one here, when it comes to the 4 drop rounds, you're going to be poised and primed in position today. This is a wonderful circuit to go out there and race, the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and it's one which has been for many a year a place where you see a lot of fans and a lot of great racing action. It's the racing line, you could say, for one Mr. Mateo Uglotti. This is going to be a big battle. It's 47 laps worth of action today here in these McLaren MP430s, and they start right now as they get themselves going off and away. It's a great start there by Uglotti. Struggles there from the third row for Luke Dowding as he tries to get himself moving forward. Matt Wood comfortably slots himself into second position with Chabi Rose just behind, but Uglotti's got the start he wants, and it's a good breakaway here. Martinez still going side by side as they go through. There's Cedric Beale trying to find his positions as they go through into turn number 3. Martinez then unable to get through then and gain that place, but ultimately it's a clean start from the front 10.
Yeah, it certainly is. Doesn't look like anyone's had any real sort of dramas by the looks of it. A few spinners, though, and a few getting caught up down at the back of the field, but it's been at least a very, very clean start at the front of the field. An absolutely perfect start for Uglotti as well. He's just breaking away from absolutely everyone.
He is, and he's having a wonderful, wonderful start to this race, and now losing the place then, and this could be a slowdown penalty, and it will hurt for Luke Dowding, who will drop the place then to, I believe that's Diogo Oliveira. Horrell will find a way down the inside, and will try to anyway at this stage, as every single time you look, there's another place going. Dennis Branch up into 7th place, having a good run of things at the moment, as we see these drivers now trying to work things out. They have no DRS to help them here. Nico Veiranen's not had the best start. He's down in 14th place at this stage. Ronaldo Augusto jumping up the positions then as they go through. It looks like Ray Griffioen has run into troubles and retirements then in the early goings.
Yeah, certainly is. On a bit of a moment for Dennis Branch on the way into turn 1, rejoins in front of Luke Dowding. Somehow no contact, and Oliveira was involved as well. Had to run wide. It was all sorts going on the way into turn 1 there.
Yeah, turn one looked like an absolutely amazing spectacle there as they all went through. Somehow, they are all still somehow running, so able to keep themselves going. There's no safety cars here in official series on iRacing, so they haven't got that to try and help them out on the road side of things at this stage, but everybody's just trying to work out what they've got and how they're able to try and push forward with the way that they are running at this stage. So all just up in the air. There's Reynaldo Augusto at the moment. He's trying to chase down Horrell, who is in 8th position, running the Racing Point livery, it seems, at this stage, trying to go through. As here's Klaus Siemens in 17th. He's not had the best start to the race, has he? He's trying to find himself positions through the order and try and get himself through as quickly as he possibly can.
Certainly hasn't had one of the best starts out of everybody in the field. Did get caught up in a little bit of the tangling that was going on further back in the field, and did get a slow down as well on lap 1. So his race start hasn't exactly gone to plan, having been in starting in 13th and is now down in 18th, but certainly is doing okay to try and recover what he's lost.
I've just noticed that Jorge Martinez has jumped up into 5th place. He's passed Samuli Veiranen and has now got himself into the top 5. He's got work to do, though, to chase down the likes of Markela and Rose and Wood and Uglotti, who lead this event at this moment in time. But Martinez is a master of saving tyre, and we saw how that came into play last time out to work all of these things into a position. We've seen a number of gainers and losers over the course of these opening laps. One of the big gainers is Nicolas Lair, who is in 13th position, had a wonderful run, round 2 of the championship, of course, at Motegi, but now more work to do for the Club Yates driver.
It certainly is. The race isn't over just yet. There's still plenty of laps to go, so we need to just keep pushing on. A little bit deep though there, and then Steven Chantal's going to send it up the inside, but probably going to get the run all the way down the back straight as Nicola Lee is going to look to the outside, and Chantal's going to be on the inside as they drag race down towards the final chicane. Who's going to be the bravest on the brake? Chantal's going to slot in behind though and just let him go.
He is, and that's a wise decision at this stage, because you get another DRS activation point coming just after that, so you have another opportunity to go out and maybe pick up that position and pick up that place, and he's not quite able to do so. So Nicolas Lair just staying in that margin and trying to attack a little bit further forward then as he continues here side by side. Here comes Chantal again, looking for the inside. Home race for Stefan Chantal, remember this, the Canadian, but now they're just bringing in Dennis Branch, who did fall back after that lap 2 incident, and now look at this, Chantal trying to dive for the inside. Nope, not going to find it.
Certainly not going to find it this time by at least, so it's going to have to wait just a little bit longer before he can get on by his drag racing right up behind him, but not quite going to be able to get a move done into the following chicane. He's going to have Dennis Branch all over his rear end though, so does have to be a little bit aware of what's going on behind him at the moment, as Branch is looking like he wants to size him up for a move. Looks to the inside of Chantal, but not quite going to be able to get a move done.
No, it was very ambitious there from a long way back. The attempt came from, so that one not quite playing out in terms of this one. And Tonino Sugro not sounding like he is the happiest camper at the moment, because he has been run into from behind by a recovering Diogo Oliveira down into the hairpin.
Sounds like he has, which is not particularly good, and Oliveira not having a great race either based on how his start has been. It just looked like a matter of just slightly locking up on the way into the corner, and unfortunately Antonio being run into.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the case. Now Matt Wood has just lost 2nd position to Chabby Rose, and just keeping an eye out on that one and how that one all came in. That was the easiest pass down the straight in towards turn 1.
Yeah, it certainly was a very, very easy pass. To get a replay of it, and you can just see used the DRS to get on by. Let's see what we can do. Just a little bit more to find that pass, but here we go. There is the pass, and Javi Rose, using that DRS to his advantage and sending it up the inside. So Rose now into 2nd, and Matt Wood going to be slotting in behind it 3rd, and it's actually lost quite a bit of time on this last lap as well. So he's fallen back into the clutches of Michael now.
He certainly has, and that's not what you want if you are Matt Wood. Markela's thinking about it, trying to find a way through, but not close enough to make that dive and that lunge just yet, so he'll have to go through the chicanes again and try and work things out. Now, this is where you start getting those differences in maybe your setup in around this circuit. This is a high downforce circuit maybe for a couple of drivers. Medium downforce certainly seems like it would work for this opening sector, but most drivers would prefer low downforce because of those two huge DRS straights.
Yeah, they certainly would, and low downforce, little bit of a gain and a loss as well on through the circuit as Rose is actually off the road.
Wow, just like that, third chicane, Chabby Rose in trouble once more. So that is not ideal at all in terms of how he wanted it. And let's try and see where he's come out now. He's behind Luke Dowding on track, so that's a big spin all on his own. And how has he done that? Well, he's just grabbed the grass on entry.
Yeah, looked like he was struggling on the way in on the rear brakes as well, so possibly a little bit of a mistake there in that department, but certainly touching the grass did most of the damage, unfortunately, and he's fallen right down the order as a result, and did very, very well not to actually end up in the barrier as well. So he's managed to get away with no damage in the end, but certainly is having a very, very hard time at the moment, as he's currently got Veyron and Dowding fighting very, very hard right in front of him.
Certainly has, and here is Emil Stanchu then in the Blue Flag Racing car, trying to move up into 9th place past the F1 Axe machine of Renato Augusto. So that's another little battle that we're keeping an eye out on here for 9th and 10th position. We're on lap 7 of 47 at the moment, and of course one pit stop will be required, and we're thinking that window could be anywhere between laps 18 and 23 here today around this circuit. So anything's possible, but so is maybe an overtake. Not quite just yet. Maybe this is just the setup for the two almost guaranteed places where overtakes happen, which is into the final chicane and into turn 1.
Yeah, certainly, and we'll see what happens this time by, but Veyron's going to be on the outside on the way down towards that final chicane, and Rose is going to have that DRS. Actually, both of them are going to have the DRS, so it's going to be a very equal drag race on the way down, and Rose is just going to decide to sit in behind and let him go and try set up the run for turn 1, which he's done very, very well actually, and is going to get the advantage on the way into turn 1. He's going to be on the inside, brakes as late as he can, and sends it up the inside and makes that one stick perfectly.
Brilliant move. Chabby Rose back to 6th position then in this one, passing Samuli Väyrynen and doing very well. He is the first of the Väyrynen brothers right now, because his brother Nico is down in 11th place right now as things stands. Next up for Chabby Rose will be Luke Dowding, as we take a little look here at Nico Väyrynen in 11th. A little bit of an island situation right now. Couple of seconds in front of the battle for 9th and 10th. Behind him is Cedric Beale, who's trying to get himself as close as possible.
Yes, certainly. Cedric having a little bit of a quiet race at the moment. Hasn't been in too many fights, but is just charging on and looking after those tyres and doing everything right that he needs to at the moment. He's currently sitting 12th, so not doing too bad for himself, considering he started in 15th on the grid.
Yes, this is where you start trying to find those places time and again. There is Tapio Markela in 3rd place. Very, very close to the race win last time out at Silverstone. Just couldn't manage the tyres compared to the alternative strategy. But Matt Wood here is very much a cork in the bottle, which Markela cannot seem to uncork at this stage. These opening couple of sectors give Matt Wood the space, and also you have that turbulence in the McLaren MP430, the dirty air effect, which takes about 4 to 6/10 of a second. That's why you often see drivers stuck in that sort of range when they're quicker.
Yes, certainly, and especially when you get to the point where you're stuck behind another car as well and having to deal with all that aero wash, such as what's going on here with Dennis Emil Stancu at the moment. Has a little bit more pace than what Augusto does, but just can't seem to find a way on by, with the fact that he's having to try and counter all that aero push and getting understeer and all that sort of stuff that's going on, which he really is just struggling with at the moment.
It's all about struggle street, and they're all trying to make sure that they get themselves to that first pit stop without too many worries at all. As up through the gears to 7th, as we take the driver's eye perspective here, or the David Coulthard at Brazil camera that you've got right now, all the way down into 1st gear. You're often told that 1st gear in these sorts of vehicles is very tough to try and get yourself out of, because you have a lot of ability to bog down. That's why a lot of drivers, when you've got 8 gears in a car like this, prefer to just keep it in 2nd.
Yes, certainly. There's a lot of torque, especially in these things on out of slow corners, so you can sort of afford to keep it in second and not have to use first too many times. There's only probably a few exceptions on iRacing at least where first gear is really an option in some of these corners. So second gear seems to be the quote-unquote first gear with how many gears you've got in the torque in these cars, but certainly it's one of those things where you're still going to have to manage that throttle very, very easily. Is Dowding's coming under pressure from Xavi Rose, who's still trying to recover after what happened earlier on, but just can't quite seem to find a way on bike, on the grass there a little bit as well. So pushing very, very hard and nearly had another mistake there.
Yep, he's on the limits. He's on every limit right now, trying to get back into this one. But that's the way that Xavi Rose does like to drive here when it comes to iRacing. He is pretty much heart on his sleeve, put everything on the table. And remember, he didn't have the easiest time of things last time we were here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve because he got disqualified for not getting rid of his damages.
Yeah, he certainly did, and I believe there was also some incident points that were starting to rack up as well, unfortunately, so not what he wanted that round, and he'll certainly be trying to recover as best as he can to make up for lost points from that round, but certainly it's still going on further back in the field as Branch is still currently, Stansu is also battling in branches as well, but see what happens between these two.
Yeah, we certainly will. It's getting a little bit close here at this stage, and it very, very nearly ended in tears there as Branch just about holding through with that one. In fact, that Stanchu going through on Renato Augusto up into 9th place. So just like that, change of position, and it does very well, and that will prove me wrong for looking away from the feed at the wrong time.
Yeah, I think both of us actually at that sort of point, but certainly Stanchu managing to get that move done and dusted, and he's starting to pull away from Augusto as well quite a bit. So clearly it was quite a pace advantage for Stanchu in favour of it at the moment, and we'll see if Augusto can really come back at him or not. It doesn't look like it's going to be, but Veyron at the moment coming under attack from Ben Horrell at the moment, starting to close that gap down. Is Horrell going to have DRS this time by as well, just up the road from that battle behind of Stansu, but we'll see what happens between these two, and Horrell closing up, but not quite close enough to get a move done, at least at the moment.
Well, he's doing well here as Ben Horrell. It's been a quiet race start for him after the opening 12 laps of action. So he's got himself ideas of what he wants for the future, going through the left and the right of the Senna S, turns 1 and 2 out on circuit. Not the first Senna S that they have gone to so far. And of course, got that championship finale at, I believe, Interlagos this season to keep in the back of my mind as well. But they charge forward then towards turn numbers 6 and 7 out on track, and a little think at the inside against
racing around.
Oh no!
And he's right in front of these two, splitting it through each side.
And that's Xavi Rose, all in trouble again. So that's not ideal as we see him getting back going again. There was some side-by-side. Ben Horrell was actually through with that incident. We'll catch this on the motor and replay. Watch this from Xavi Rose. He'll lose it coming out of that second chicane. He's having a torrid time here today with trying to keep the vehicle pointed in a straight line as he was pushing forward, trying to get himself back into play. And you'll see it right now as he will go through the left and the right of this next section. Through the left, try and put the power down as early as you can on the right, and the back not settled. Round you go, huge amounts of locking. Now watch these two vehicles try and split them together. Wonderful work as they get themselves through.
Yeah, certainly they both did very, very well to avoid crashing into the parked Xavi Rose, and Rose actually just tapping the wall there and losing his front wing, unfortunately. As a result, he's decided to continue on, which is a little surprising considering he's going to have no front grip whatsoever, and he's currently just behind Dennis Branch, but you're not quite sure what the go is there with Rose continuing on considering the lack of front wing. Still somehow managing to get the car turned, which is a little bit interesting, but he's certainly on struggle street, that's for sure, and this race is certainly not going to plan at all.
No, not at all. Mateo Uglotti with the race lead though still at this moment in time, and can be quite happy with things. He is just struggling a little bit here with our timing and scoring at the moment, but he is in front, and he is in front by a large margin as well, so he'll have that to go and play with here. 3.5 seconds over Matt Wood. Makela has fallen back over the last couple of laps. He is now a further 3 seconds back in terms of that battle with Matt Wood. So Uglotti in control here on lap 13 of this race, but very, very seldomly has Uglotti relinquished a race lead in this championship.
Yeah, he certainly has, unfortunately, and that's going to be probably another drop round for him this round as well. So, not having a particularly good championship run at this stage, at least, especially with the fact that drop rounds aren't too far
Are we
away
talking about the
from it.
championship leader?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Well, we know that Xabi Rose is having a not brilliant day, but Uglotti is on cloud 9 at the moment. Here's the battle 4th and 5th at the moment. Luke Dowding's done well to hold on to Jorge Martinez.
He certainly has, actually, and he's starting to close that gap up quite nicely, is Doubting, especially with the way this race has been going on for him. So we'll see whether he's going to find a way on by at some stage. Certainly is having a very, very good time, though, with a 2.2 differential between himself and Martinez in terms of pace. So certainly in favour of Doubting at the moment, and going to have DRS this time down at the back straight as well. So going to close that gap up, but whether maybe he's going to get done at turn 1 or not is yet to be seen.
Cedric Beale as well is starting to close down in 12th position at this moment, trying to get onto the back of Nicolas Lair in 11th place at this stage. So these drivers fighting it out just outside of the top 10, and maybe those drivers just outside the top 10 may be in a position here, Cam, to take the early pit stop. And remember, it's tough here to go and pit around this circuit because you go from about 330 Ks and you hope to hit the brakes and hit about, what, 70?
Yeah, be about right, roughly. As pit speed is only about 64 kilometers, so it's very, very slow, and you've really got to get it pulled up as fast as you possibly can. But also, you've got that problem of traffic as well, because if you're stuck behind someone on the way down, well, if you're pitting and you're stuck behind someone who's not pitting, you're going to be really balked on the way in. And so you really have to time it quite right, and make sure that you're not pitting when someone in front of you isn't, so that you can time it well in pit lane.
Exactly. So these drivers are all hoping that their strategies, when they go and execute them, are going to be in the best possible interest for them at this moment, at this stage, when it comes to this sort of race. As we focus here on this for Cedric Beale, making progress here. And also they're just in front, I believe, is Nico Veiranen there in 10th position. So Nicolas Lair with work to do to try and get that. There is Veiranen in 10th. There is lap traffic in front. That's Dennis Branch, who is going to be one lap down in the not too distant future. But Nico Veiranen still on that island in 10th place, and quite ironic seeing as this circuit, Gilles Villeneuve, is on an island in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. But 10th place at the moment. Work to be done here on lap 16. Looks like everyone is trying to get it to halfway to make sure they're one-stopping softs off.
Yeah, it seems to be the case, and Javi Rose finally back in away, and he's put some medium compound tyres on. It's actually the second time he's come down onto the lane as well, which is a little interesting, and slots in behind it. Nicola Lee, thankfully, nearly having contact between the two of them, managing to just slot in time. So not quite sure what the two-stop strategy is there in terms of Xavi Rose there, but certainly going to be down the order.
No.
Unfortunately, and that's contact between the two of them.
Just like that, Xabi Rose was looking like he was quicker, and he's pretty much run into more troubles again. He's outbroken himself, or he's been spooked by the fact that Nicolas Lair is that much earlier on the brakes, and Xabi Rose runs into the back of him and into a world of troubles. There is Emil Stanciu in 8th place, looking to try and get to Veiranen in 7th. We did just catch that on the Motum replay, of course, that instant that you just saw. But Emil Stanciu here, trying to use that DRS and get as close as possible, going through the left and the rights. And, well, there's the Wall of Champions, of course, where we've seen nobody hit that so far today. So nobody so far in this field is quote-unquote a champion.
Yeah, certainly not, and it's actually quite a surprise because usually there's at least one person who's hit that wall by now in these sort of longer races where you start to have a little bit of brain fade happen in some drivers' minds, and getting very close to the wall was Stanley there on the way through the first chicane, and got very close and didn't want to hit that, or he would have probably damaged the front wing. But he's closing in on Veiranen, who's again 2/10 slower compared to Stanciu, so he's going to be closing that gap down very, very quickly as Emil, and that move is going to end up happening at some point. You do have to wonder if maybe Veiranen just starting to struggle on tyres a little bit.
Maybe so. We are on lap 17. There are 30 laps to go, and Uglotti crosses the start-finish line to start his 18th revolution of the circuit, and there he is right now, clear by 3.5 seconds still out there on track, and just proving to everyone once more what he showed at Watkins Glen last season, saying, you know what, I can challenge for this sort of championship, I can maybe rock the apple cart, and it's been a fantastic start to his season. He's had himself, what, 2 wins, a second, and maybe 1 race that wouldn't go, actually it's 2 firsts and 2 seconds he's had over the course of sim speed races. So to say he's not had a good season so far is a complete understatement. He's got no worse than second so far. He's absolutely flying again.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's having pretty much a perfect championship run. Well, not quite a perfect championship run, but it's still a very, very strong, and is going to become probably quite unbeatable at some stage if he keeps this up, especially when we get to the point where drop rounds start to be included. But this man on screen, Matt Wood's done not too bad for himself. He's had an up and down season on last season and this season as well, with a few mistakes and errors along the way, but he's at least proved that he's got plenty of pace in that car.
I have to say that Matt Wood is the sort of person who has walked under every single ladder where he lives and has done everything. He's seen a million black cats cross his path, or whatever superstitious things you believe in. He may as well be running the number 13 with how unlucky he is over the course of the seasons that he's been running here in the iRacing Grand Prix Series. There is Emil Stanchu, though, in 8th place, trying to close down to Samu Oliveira in 7th position on lap 19. They'll be going on to start here, these 2 drivers. But Stanchu here has every reason just to stay patient over the course of this one. They're about, I would say, 5 laps away from their pit stop window, 4 or 5 laps, which means that they're probably running on the worst part of their tyres that they'll have. And very soon, they'll be hitting that proverbial cliff.
Yeah, they certainly will, and that tyre will really start to come into effect and really hurt some of those who really do struggle with the tyre starting to drop off. So we'll see what happens and whether Stanchu decides to go for an undercut, whether he just decides to go a little bit longer than Veyron and try and get an overcut. We'll have to wait and see, but certainly wouldn't be a silly idea to try and overcut with the fact that he's got a little bit more pace than Veyron at the moment.
Yeah, and everyone is just trying to make sure they get what they want. A couple drivers down in then on the lane, and a few retirements from this race. Andres Nilsson, Ray Griffioen, both out of the event at this moment in time, and trying to find as much as they can around this place to move forward and gain places and make things happen where others maybe haven't. Still, no takers of the leaders coming down onto the lane at this stage, but what is key is maybe those drivers who are trying to get themselves around and who are maybe falling back.
Oh, no.
Oh, hello.
That's a car spun around. Liam Buckley, unfortunately, getting caught up with Chaviros again.
Not having a good race, is he, right now? It's just a case of trying to get through. They all checked up. Buckley checked up, actually, there in terms of that one because of the returning to track Stefan Chantal, who had overshot the Lepangle hairpin there, tried to get it back going, and the moment that Chabi Rose is thinking, okay, time to put the power on, it hasn't worked at all. And in fact, Chabi Rose has retired the car after his 4th incident there, so he won't be any more trouble for this sort of race, and a race which really could have done without him in some certain respects. But at this stage, Mateo Uglotti still leading this one, but we are heading towards that pit stop cycle in the next couple of laps right now here, Cam. So everybody's just thinking about, okay, what do I do next? Where do I go out there and get what I need next? Markler surely has got to be thinking about that pit lane soon, because he is starting to drop time.
Yeah, he certainly is, and starting to drop it by quite a bit as well, especially when you compare it to those around him. Marquez did a 15.9 last time by, so still a little bit quicker compared to those behind him, but certainly not that much greater. And he is matching the times of what Matt Wood is, but certainly is dropping at time compared to what he did on much fresher rubber.
There through goes Klaus Siemens there on Stefan Chantal for 12th position in the race. The Club DX driver making a comfortable move down at the hairpin where Stefan Chantal is struggling, and he's struggling so much he'll dive down into the pits, Cam.
Yeah, certainly not a silly idea, especially with where we are in the race. So about halfway, or just under halfway through, is the decision to pit for Chantal, and we'll see where he comes out in relation to everybody else, and whether that undercut's going to work for him in the end or not.
Yeah, and we see going up on the jacks then, looking to get himself out and away as soon as possible. And there he goes at the moment. I've caught my eye on Veyranen and Stanchu again. They're still separated by just a couple of tenths of a second as Chantal will look to get himself back out and going again. But the keys here, as we see another couple of drivers go through, this is Nico Veyranen that we're looking at right now, and he's got traffic behind trying to get past him. This is Antonino Sugro, who's trying to get through and gain his lap back in terms of position. But just in front of that, in comes brother Samuli. He will come in and make his first stop.
Yeah, so deciding to come down onto the lane, and probably not a bad idea, especially with how he was starting to come under pressure from the man behind him in the form of Emilio Stancu, who actually had about a 3/10 differential in lap time last time by. So we'll see what this undercut is going to do for Veyranen and whether it's going to end up working in his favour.
Yeah, and whether it works in his favour or not, that's going to be the question that we see. Veyranen off and away again. We do apologise, ladies and gentlemen, for the issues that we are having. It seems a little bit with our overlays here. We're just having a couple of troubles picking up which drivers are in what positions at this moment in time. But crucially at this stage, there are still a lot of battles going out there. Stanchu surely has to cover the move to come down into the pits. Martinez has done well compared to Luke Dowding here, as Dowding, who used to be all over the back of Martinez, has just been struggling a little bit over the last couple of laps. A few 116s have been creeping in, and as such, he is now finding himself a little bit further and further away.
Yeah, certainly. It's not probably what he's going to be wanting. All Martinez is start to do his thing at the moment. Michael has come into the lane, so deciding to come down onto the lane after dropping a bit of time and going to get some new fresh rubber on that car.
Of course, it's worth noting as well here, Cam, that they run the NASCAR-style pit, or the IndyCar pits, as it were, more rather than the Grand Prix pit. So what does that mean? It means that it's a lot longer for those drivers who get those opening grid stalls to get their position. And Markel has not got the best exit here because he's got Reynaldo Augusto that he'll have to pass for position, mind you, and Augusto defends it. I did catch jumping into session Rafael Sanca, who is a huge element of iRacing Brazil, keeping an eye out here today on Reynaldo Augusto's progress.
Yes, certainly is, and unfortunately Markel is not managing, still is struggling to get on by. Augusto's just doing his thing at the moment, hasn't done anything really wrong, but Markel is going to look up the inside. Oh, and Augusto's off the road, locked up in the wall.
And into the tyres hard goes Reynaldo Augusto, who got that all shades of wrong, hit the brakes and just had nothing going. It's a really weird one. It locked to the left, he just couldn't get any turn in, and all of a sudden straight on you go, and out goes Reynaldo Augusto. He'll try and live that one back to the pits, but Markel are getting what he wants now. Emil Stanchu's in, as is Dowding, as is Martinez, as is Wood, as is Uglotti. Everybody in on lap 24, everybody in the pool.
Yeah, certainly everybody's decided now is the best time to come on down, and no change between Matt Wood and Uglotti. But what's going to happen between Dowding and Martinez? Martinez is going to come out in front of Dowding, and it looks like Markel is going to have jumped both of them as well.
Yeah, Cedric Beale stays out, but is going to be right in the middle. Ben Horrell pitted a little bit earlier as well. He's not going to be able to find a way through, but Cedric Beale now will have to try and defend against Luke Dowding, and this one is crucially for position. Now, Stanchu's just come out of the pits here, and he is now behind Samuli Veyranen again, so it didn't quite work out for him in terms of his run, but we keep focused on Luke Dowding here, who is trying to get past Cedric Beale, and hopefully we don't see the same of Reynaldo Augusto. Look at Cedric Beale here, moving to the inside. He is defending that one quite heavily here, but Dowding gets himself to the inside later on the brakes, and just like that, there's the position made.
Yeah, it certainly is. The position made in the end very, very easily, but we'll see if Beale can do anything about it and try and come back at him. He's going to have DRS this time, but down the back straight due to being as close enough to get the detection, and it's going to close that gap up a little bit, but probably not going to be enough to have a move done this time by into turn one.
Yeah, not really much at the moment that Emil Stanchu can do at the moment. Veyranen has got himself about 4 car lengths here of a gap coming into this final chicane, this very, very tough final chicane out here on track, and nope, not going to quite find any opportunity manages to make that drive happen in towards turn number 1 out on track. There is a great battle going on, though, for 15th place at the moment. It's Philip Yates, the number 28 driver, lowest iRacing in the field. He's up against Claver Toffoli in the number 19, who actually gets a really good run here, does Toffoli, and he might have a chance here to look down the inside at the final chicane.
Yeah, it's looking like he's closing that gap up very, very quickly, and it's not quite going to happen, unfortunately, into the chicane. It might happen on the way into turn 1, though, with how close that gap is. He's going to have DRS again, but looks like he didn't quite get the exit he probably wanted, so Yates is going to be able to hold onto that position for the time being.
He is, and that's a very well-held defence. That as well. Yates currently classified in 14th position at the moment in this event. Your race at the moment, Mateo Uglotti leading this one outright, with Matt Wood in 2nd position and Tapio Markala in 3rd. As we look at things at the moment, Matt Wood is, Mateo Uglotti here just getting by John Pat Kelly at the moment, as Emil Stanchu is a lot closer this time by to try and make this move and to try and make something happen here with Samuli Veiranen. Can he get the drive here to make this one happen? This is the 7th and 8th place at this stage, and for the time being, answer to that is going to be no move can happen yet for the Blue Flag Racing driver.
Yeah, certainly not going to be a move just yet, but he is closing that gap up and is still having a pace advantage as it stands here, so he's certainly going to be on his way to having that move done. And Veiranen just running a little bit deep on the way into 6 and 7 there as well, so mistakes are starting to creep in ever so slightly for Veiranen, which is going to help Stansu getting that move done quickly, but we'll have to still wait and just make sure that Stansu doesn't make a mistake.
Well, it's all about these mistakes and how little you make them, especially in a very, very unruly vehicle like this one. It's very easy for those mistakes to start going awry if you don't drive these in the proper manner around a circuit like this. So everyone is just pretty much tiptoeing their way around from time to time, hoping that they can make something happen. Here comes the move, though, down the inside, looking to get this one done under DRS, and that is a very, very well accomplished move. And there's traffic there having a huge accident. That's Antonino Sugro, who's run himself into troubles there at the Wall of Champions. First one we found today, heavy over both curbs, and he has speared himself in at 45 degrees with a huge barrel roll.
Yeah, certainly, isn't it? It was that second curb hit that actually unsettled the car. The first one was okay, but it just pogoed after that point, and the car was already unsettled by the time it hit the second curb. So that didn't do any good at all. And then the tyre will obviously advancing that crash spectacle quite some way.
Huge accident, and one which I think Antonino Sugro will be very, very happy to say that was sim racing and not what happened in the real world. I think he'll be very, very happy with that fact. But at the moment, Toffoli starts to fall back here from Philip Yates. That gap now almost a second here, and the Brazilian is not really doing much against the Club UK and iDriver. He's not finding enough, it seems, at this stage to push himself forward and gain that place, which he needs to try and gather back ASAP.
Yeah, he certainly does need to try and close that gap back down, does Toffoli, but at the moment, just that further down in the field, Porter is currently putting a lot of pressure on John Pat Kelly at the moment for P19, who's not doing too bad of a race, and Porter's going to have to let Wood on by as well, so going to be a little bit of lost time there, but Matt Wood is finally on by some of the lap drivers, and they're going to have Markler not too far behind as well, so see what's going to happen in this little battle as Porter is probably starting to drop off a little bit of time from John Pat Kelly at the moment.
Dowding has just set the fastest lap of the race so far with a 1:14.810 on his set of soft compound tyres. So he's doing well at this stage. He's trying to chase down Jorge Martinez. The bad news is he only took 4/10 out with the fastest lap of the race, which isn't much at all.
Yeah, it certainly isn't all that much with how close it's been and who's in this field at the moment, but certainly isn't doing too bad to have put the fastest lap in is Luke Dowding at the moment, so still at least has bragging rights for the time being, and we'll see whether he can use that pace that he's got at the moment to catch up to Jorge Martinez and get a move done.
Well, he wants that move done. He wants that move done soon, but I doubt that we'll be seeing too much of that one happen. Still that battle going on then, 14th and 15th position. So Foley taking a couple laps maybe to cool down the tyres, cool down the engine a bit, and try and attack with another vigour or another lease of life, you could say at this point in time. So Toffoli trying to chase down in. We are down to 20 runners here from the 28 starters that we've had here at this Canadian race circuit, Gilles Villeneuve. And now all of a sudden Toffoli wants to try and find that place, but it's just not happening at the moment. He just can't seemingly cover it up in the corners because the straights, he's doing good enough a job.
Yeah, certainly. It's certainly one of those things where you just need to work on what you can do to try and overcome those challenges of the likes of Aeropush at the moment, does Toffoli, and if he can do that, he'll be on his way to getting that move done. Did close up a little bit there by the looks of it, but just not quite able to get close enough to get this move done at the moment. And it seems to be a little bit of back and forth with the fact that he's quick enough, but just not quite able to do it.
No, he's not quite there at the moment, is Kleber Toffoli, and now you're starting to see here where it gets a little frustrating around this place, because there's a number of chicanes that make life very much all about trying to find a way through and gain a place here and gain a place there. But if you can't find the positions and you can't find the moves, then you're always going to be in a case where there's trouble brewing on the horizon, because you need to find a way through. But these sorts of vehicles, they do make it tough to go and make an overtake. That's why they put the DRS on the back and try to find themselves the opportunities to go make things happen. On cue, Diogo Oliveira, who's way down the order, says 1:14.6, I want bragging right.
Yeah, certainly very, very good lap there by Oliveira, and he's certainly making a very, very good recovery of what's been a bit of an up and down race for him. He's closing in rapidly on Clout Siemens at the moment. He's still quite some ways up the road, just over 6 seconds or so, but certainly it's going to be a little bit of a hard slog to catch back up and get back inside that top 10. Don't think he'll catch Veyron and the like of just further up the road from Siemens, but certainly he's going to keep on pushing and probably going to keep on putting in purple sectors.
I have to say, this is rather incredible, the way that Diogo Oliveira has actually recovered his way through the field. We've seen nothing of him since his earlier issues. He was a part of the spin on lap 2. He dropped himself down very early and now finds himself in 10th place, trying to chase down all those who may come in front of him at this stage. We continue with that battle, 14th and 15th, Yates and Toffoli, and Toffoli might have a chance here on Philip Yates, who ran slightly wide. There's Nathaniel Porter in 20th. He's trying to get past Jean-Pat Kelly in 19th place at this moment in time. He's just not close enough, it seems, to make that. We go on board, see if he can get that one down on the brakes to the inside. And the answer to that one is going to be no, he cannot at this stage make that move stick. So that one continues to be a waiting game out on circuit, and it has, Yates has gone straight on then at the final chicane, and that will give Toffoli 14.
Yeah, it certainly will, and just a little bit too late on the brake there was Yates. Just tried to push the braking zone, unfortunately not what he intended to do, and unfortunately he's going to lose a place out of that. He might actually lose 2 to Buckley here if he's not careful, but he's just going to do enough for the time being to hold on.
Yeah, he is, and Liam Buckley here wants in. He's had a spin of his own today, so he wants to move up through the field. 6.4 seconds the lead currently here, as we'll have 15 laps to go at the end of the start-finish line. But what is key here is that Liam Buckley, he wants in. Car 25 against car 28, and these drivers are all fighting it out for position here, and they are not a million miles away from one Mr. Race leader who will be coming up to lap them in the next about 3 laps or so.
Yeah, Uglotti's starting to make his way through all this lap traffic in front of him. He's not too far away from that little battle of Yates and Buckley, like you said, but certainly they're going to need to keep an eye on their mirrors to make sure they don't impede him and have any dramas happen, that's for sure.
Speaking of impeding, Jorge Martinez has found the battle between Porter and Jean-Pat Kelly, and crucially, he's found Luke Dowding as a bit of company as well. So out of the way goes Porter, and now this will allow Luke Dowding in the NHRE sports car to try and chase down and pick up that place once again. He'll use the toe of the car in front of Porter to try and get himself alongside. If Porter was wise, he'd have moved to the inside, but unfortunately here, it has to be an overtake to make that one happen, and it does work, and Marquez is pushing the limit so much, he was brushing up against the wall of champions there at the end, as Philip Yates actually does come out of the pits then after his pit stop, and John Pat Kelly puts the gap in the middle. But crucially, any time that Luke Dowding seems to get close, and he put a 49 down, just can't get close enough. John Pat Kelly out of the way.
He certainly can't quite get close enough to get a move, well, get close enough so he can get the move done at least, but he can certainly get close enough to sort of be there or thereabouts. But it's one thing to catch driver ahead, it's another thing to pass them, which we're currently seeing here between these two.
Yes, and this is where Luke Dowding's trying to get in. Look at Nathaniel Porter, though. He's trying to get aggressive here in this battle of one lap down. On the brakes, into the right-left chicane. John Pat Kelly is so experienced, though, in his open-wheeled vehicles for TQ Engineering. He knows where he needs to place the car. He knows what he needs to do. And Porter thinks about the inside. It won't quite get there this time at La Pangle, the hairpin. But what's key is that you keep trying and you keep putting pressure on. He's one of the few drivers, John Pat Kelly, who probably has more experience than a lot of other drivers.
Yeah, certainly, and especially dealing with pressure as well. So he's certainly doing all right for himself at the moment, holding on Nathaniel Porter, and is certainly doing an okay job to keep going about his thing.
Yeah, he's doing well, doing his thing, as this is the battle 5th and 4th position. Luke Dowding just put a 14.632 down on the board there to set the fastest lap of the race here as he chases down Jorge Marquez and tries to think about how he gets through the winner last time out. This is set up and he has to jam on the brakes early. Couldn't get the nose settled to the inside through that corner there, Cam, for fear of running straight into the back of the Iberian.
Yes, certainly. It looked very, very close to being an incident there between those two, and Dowding's trying to make sure that he doesn't create an incident, but he also wants to make sure that he gets on by and isn't held up too much. So we'll see what he's going to do at the hairpin. Decides to just back it up a little bit and set the run up on the exit, and Marquez is probably going to get a slightly better exit, but Dowding is going to have the DRS down the back straight this time. As Marquez is going to go defensive. No, he doesn't. They actually both get it, and Dowding's going to go to the inside. Who's going to have the bravest brakes? It's going to be in favor of Dowding, but you have to remember Marquez is going to have the DRS, so they're going to have the ability to use it on each other again on the way down to turn number 1, but Marquez is not going to be close enough to get that position back.
They put John Owens a lap down as they go by, and Marquez then falls back behind Luke Dowding, who moves up into 4th position and is +1 for his day so far, having a really, really good ride of things at the moment. Here is Luke Dowding at this stage. So we go on board with Jorge Marquez as he desperately tries to chase down and gain places. Oliveira's actually just picked up a place as well and has done so on the back straight. He's gone through on Klaus Siemert, and now that puts him up into 9th position, Cam.
Yeah, it certainly does, and we'll get a motion simulation replay of that move as well that Oliveira's managed to make.
Well, he did just make it, but ultimately we are unable to see it at this point in time. So there is Oliveira. Oh, hello, that's my name. That is Klaus Siemert there just behind. So there is the overtake. There is the position. And Klaus Siemert all of a sudden now finds himself back in the 10th place at this moment in time, trying to move on forward and gain as many more places as he can, but ultimately he is starting to just fall a little bit backward. Into the final 10 laps then here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and it's been a quiet one for Mateo Uglotti, as Tapio Marcola actually now sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:14.473. Where did that lap come from? Tapio Marcola.
Yeah, certainly it's a lap we didn't expect to see, that's for sure, but he's certainly put his foot down and decided to pump out some very, very quick laps, some 14s over the last few laps as well. So he's certainly been doing some very, very quick laps. That one's absolutely blistering at the moment, especially when you compare it to what everybody else has been doing.
Yeah, and that is 2/10 quicker than what anybody else has managed to do so far. So Marcola currently has that in the back pocket. He 3.3 seconds behind Matt Wood at the moment, and ultimately Matt Wood will be looking behind at that going, you're not supposed to be doing those fastest laps. I thought you were bad on tyres, but he's looking pretty solid here on this second set of the soft compound. John Pat Kelly still holding back then one Mr. Nathaniel Porter in the battle for 18th and 19th place. That one's not happening, but again, 3/10 have come off then on this lap from Tapio Markler. He is starting to find a groove with these tyres and is starting to reel back in Matt Wood as if he's on a fishing line.
Yeah, he certainly is starting to close that gap down and reel him in at the moment, and just gonna have to keep putting in those nice laps to keep making that happen as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Probably going to happen with the pace that he's got at the moment, especially if he can keep that up and not drop the tyres off. He'll really close that gap down at a rapid rate of knots, but still, it's still got to make it happen at the end of the day and still got to put the laps in.
You have to put the laps in, and you have to make sure you are driving a clean and consistent race. That's the only way you can go about this and try and pick up those points and those very important results out here today, which everyone, I'm sure, will be hoping they can pick up big points for their championship picture respectively. There is your race leader, Mateo Uglotti, at this stage. He will put himself now with 10 laps to go as he crosses here to start his 38th lap of 47 revolutions of the circuit. So Uglotti 6.3 clear at the moment. He's just managing the gap at the moment to Matt Wood, and that's all he needs to do. He's the sort of driver who likes to build his gap early and then just consolidate and conserve at around 98%.
Yeah, certainly. He doesn't need to do anything silly. He doesn't need to push hard. He just needs to put in some clean and consistent laps the whole way home from here, and he'll have himself a very nice bag of points to put towards the championship again.
And if he can keep putting on those points championship, he'll be one very, very happy customer at this stage. You could say he's one happy cat as well as he looks to try and get himself moving forward. There's Matt Wood in second position. Now, he's done nothing wrong here today in terms of this race. What's his one downfall? He just doesn't have enough pace to really match Mateo Uglotti.
He certainly seems to be just liking it ever so slightly at the moment, does Matt Wood, but he's still certainly doing everything that he needs to, at least for the time being, and certainly making up for the disaster that Silverstone was last week. So won't be too unhappy with a second place, at least, especially with the fact that he's pretty much, I guess, the best of the rest.
Certainly is. I'm keeping an eye on a couple battles from now to the end of the race, because Diogo Oliveira is about a second a lap quicker than Samuli Väyrynen in the battle for 8th and 9th. That gap is 6 seconds at the moment, and Nico Väyrynen took out 1 second as well over Klaus Siemens, and that gap is about 6 seconds as well. So both of those battles for 8th and 9th, 10th and 11th, they're both going to be closing in over the course of the final stages of this race. There is Diogo Oliveira right now, and that is his target just in front of him, Samuli Väyrynen, with the gap down now here, Cam, to 4.6 seconds.
Yeah, so he's closing that gap down really, really quick as Oliveira, and that was a second difference last time by as well in terms of lap time. Väyrynen with a 16.0 to a 15.0 for Oliveira, so there's a massive pace differential. Väyrynen's done a 16.2 this time by compared to Oliveira's 15.1, so there's just a crazy amount of pace differential at the moment between these two, and Oliveira's going to catch him in no time.
He is. It'll be a second a lap, so it will catch him. Oh, in about 4 laps. That's Klaus Siemens, who has found the wall at turn 2, just behind all of this. Finds reverse, loses the place to Nico Väyrynen. So Klaus Siemens in the number 18 in all sorts of trouble. You will see the crinkles at the front wing, and we'll catch this on the Motum simulation replay.
Yeah, certainly. Well, that was a very, very odd one, actually, because it doesn't look like he went in he only went in ever so slightly quick, and then the rear end just came around and luckily managed to lock it up, but unfortunately just brushed the wall as he came to a stop. So unfortunately there's going to be just a little bit of front wing damage on that car at the moment, but yeah, very, very odd situation there.
Yeah, the back stepped out and he tries to jam the brakes to correct it, and then by the time he's tried to correct it, he's run out of road and he's down the order. Meanwhile, Uglotti, fastest lap of the race so far, 1:14.370 as we look at John Pat Kelly, and now they've got a little bit of issues here because that's Ben Horrell trying to get through, who currently finds himself in 6th place at this moment in time. He gets through on Nathaniel Porter, puts him a lap down here in this battle, which continues to go on, but John Pat Kelly doing just enough at this stage just to stave off this battle at this moment, and they'll both be thinking about, okay, if we can just get our acts together, we can chase down the likes of John Owens and Tamas Shane. Yeah,
they certainly can, and John Pat Kelly with a slight pace advantage, just under a tenth, but still when it's going to be working out for him quite well. Porter's really dropped off the back of him as well over these last few laps or so. Traffic hasn't helped at all, but it's certainly still going to be not what he wants to be having happen at the moment, but they're certainly closing in on Tamashina, who's a little bit up the road at the moment and is actually running slightly slower lap times compared to them as well.
Keeping an eye out on Jorge Martinez. He's brought the gap back down to 2 seconds with that lap time, a 15 flat from Dowding and a 15.2 from Martinez. In fact, it has opened up by 2 tenths of a second, but I'm sure Luke Dowding will just be trying to manage the opening sectors more rather than Martinez, who I think is more built towards those final sectors out on track. John Pat Kelly, though, is side by side with Porter as he tried to get through, as he caught an eye on Cedric Beale, but ultimately doesn't work. Didn't have enough of a car alongside.
Yeah, certainly wasn't quite able to make it happen in the end, unfortunately. So Pat Kelly is going to hold on to that one for the time being, and is going to continue to try and close that gap down towards Tamashania and those ahead of him.
Yeah, it's all about that closing down process that we see. The gap 4 tenths of a second here between these two. They've been racing all race long with each other, but John Pat Kelly from Club Mid-South is showing here that the Club UK&I driver needs to do a little bit more to find his way through, because he is just not finding it at this moment in time. Keeping an eye on that Oliveira gap to Samuli Väyrynen. Only 4 tenths that time taken off, but the gap is now down to 3 seconds, and you can see it here. Now 2.5 seconds over the course of this lap. He is really flying here, is Diogo Oliveira, trying to gain as much as he can to move up now into what would be 8th place at the end of this one.
Yeah, certainly, and that gap is rapidly closing down continually as well. And again, massive pace advantage to Oliveira, with the fact that he's just putting in some incredible laps over these last few laps. There's a 15.9 last time by for Väyrynen and 15.2 for Oliveira. So the pace is sort of closed up in terms of the differential between the two, but there's still a big pace advantage into Oliveira's camp.
And Diogo Oliveira will definitely want to get back to 8th place. He would only be down 1 position from his starting grid stall. Emil Stanchu and Ben Horrell, your biggest movers inside the top 10. Emil Stanchu is up 7 places today from where he started on the grid. He's having a wonderful run. The biggest gainer overall in this field is Tamas Shane. He's up 11 places today from where he started. Someone off the road, that is Tamas Shane on cue, getting a huge spin actually there, going through as we focus on Toffoli and Buckley.
Yeah, not what he will have wanted at all with Shane, so he's going to end up coming into the clutches even more to those around him. Unfortunately, he's going to lose out in positions, but certainly at the moment, Toffoli is starting to close that gap down towards those around him, and Buckley's certainly doing the better job of it, because he's starting to gain on Toffoli quite a bit.
1.2 seconds that last time by, 16 flat, compared to a 17.2 from Claver as he goes on through this chicane, but it looks like it's a lot more even this time around as they go through this section of road and try and figure out what can they do to gain those places or hold on to those places, as it were, at this stage. So still a lot coming along here. Martinez still got that gap of 2 seconds. We focus on Oliveira trying to chase down Väyrynen, and Samuli here has got that gap at 2 seconds exactly, and it's looking like half a second a lap is the pause of call that we are seeing for this battle, this position go in, which would mean they'd be right nose to tail coming on towards the final lap.
Yeah, it's probably going to turn into quite a scrap as well, especially if it's a final lap move that's going to happen, because Väyrynen's not going to let that one go too easily. So looking forward to seeing what happens in that battle and who's going to end up coming up victorious in it. But certainly you can still see this little battle between Porter and John Pat Kelly still going on, and Porter's actually closed that gap up now as a result of what's gone on in the last few laps for John Pat Kelly. So that gap closing down, and he's going to be back in the fight of getting that move possibly done.
He's in the range, he's in the wheelhouse, but being in the wheelhouse does not give you the ability to be in for a huge ability to attack. So we'll keep an eye on a focus on that at this stage, but you've got the likes of Nathaniel Porter still struggling to get close enough to make those moves, and it has been that sort of day all day long, which we have been keeping an eye out on at the moment. Only a 10th that time from Oliveira on his chase down, but really those are the only battles here, Cam, that we're looking at on circuit, because it has been such a race here today that a lot of these gaps have formed quick, they have formed early. It's been very tough for drivers to really get close enough to really make any real conceited challenge.
Yeah, certainly. And that's a mistake from Oliveira around the track. So grab a minimum simulation replay of what's happened, and it looks like it's been all on his own. Turn 6 by the looks of it, and it's just a matter of getting on the brake a little bit too late, locks the rears and gets a bit of oversteer, manages to save it quite nicely, but that's certainly not what he's going to be wanting, and not the tyres want either, with the massive fact that he's locked all 4 of them up.
It looked like what happened in 2010 to Sebastian Vettel a little bit, except that this was all completely on a dry line. Now, Toffoli only has a second, well, now under a second here. Liam Buckley trying to find 12th place here right at the end. He started in 18th position today, did Liam Buckley, but he knows what he needs. He knows what he wants. He wants to get by Toffoli quickly as he possibly can, because he is running out of laps. There's 3 laps to go here at this circuit, Gilles Villeneuve, with Mateo Uglotti now going on to start his penultimate lap of the race here, in control of the race lead. Liam Buckley here getting the tow, getting the DRS activation, and now look at this, closes right up underneath, and will now look to try and use that again to get even closer.
He certainly will, and he's going to close that gap up slightly, but going to be no movement to turn 1 at least. But he's at least put himself in a position to try and move around a little bit deep in turn 2 there on the brakes, so that's going to allow Toffoli to build that gap back up a little bit. But you can see they're just not as confident over the curbs as Buckley, and unfortunately, as a result, is losing a bit of time through this middle sector of the lap.
Well, Liam Buckley knows he's struggling a little bit, but he can gather that back up. He looks very, very astute in a straight line, does Liam right now, and he knows he's only got a lap and a half to figure this move out. They've got Luke Dowding and Jorge Martinez jumping up onto the scene behind them also, which will not be ideal in terms of the way that they want to run their battle from now all the way till the end of this race. John Pat Kelly still holding off Nathaniel Porter, and of course we saw what happened with Diogo Oliveira's battle, so we'll focus on what's going on the last lap starting then here in this race for Mateo Uglotti, who knows that he is just 4.36 kilometers away from finding the one thing that he wants, and he continues to get more than anyone else, and those are race victories that he continues to seemingly get. Out of the way then goes Kleber Toffoli, and not Buckley. So it looks like Toffoli has made a mistake through the final chicane, and in fact that was the move done, and then there came the car behind, and he decided, you know what, I'm letting that one go. But we focus on Mateo Uglotti right now, heading through this 3rd chicane, and what a drive. Oh, big slide of oversteer. He nearly threw that race win away here on the final lap of this event. Uglotti, I think, is pushing for that fastest lap. The Infinity Red Bull style livery would say that he's trying to do something circa 2013 Sebastian Vettel here today, but Uglotti, absolutely fantastic driving, broke away early. Nobody could catch him. Nobody could stop him. He has been the epitome of perfection once again here today, and he will come to the line and he will take another fantastic race win, this time at Gilles Villeneuve.
And add another solid bank of points to his championship run. Matt Wood's going to bring home a very, very solid 2nd place in the end, but the battle is still going on further down the field. Porter's going to look to the inside of John Pat Kelly, just going to pull it up in time. Pat Kelly's going to try and set the exit up though, but Porter's going to have DRS this time by down the front straight, so he's going to be a little bit disadvantaged in the straight line as John Pat Kelly, but he's going to try everything he can. But you can see the gap is slowly building due to the fact that there's DRS in the hands of Porter, and unfortunately that move is not going to be able to come back at him, and Porter's going to take that position off him in the end.
That's what perseverance does to you, ladies and gentlemen. You never give up on a position, because Nathaniel Porter has just proven why you race all the way up to the checkered flag with that sort of overtake here. But crucially, almost everyone now is across the line, just waiting for Cedric Beale. He'll be the final finisher then here today in this one on the leading lap. Tamashane coming across the line in 19th position. But official classified results, once Beale gets over the line, are going to be up on your screen right around now. And it will be a huge, huge result, which many will be happy for. That is a starting grid here today. But ultimately, Mateo Uglotti did come home with a race victory here by 5.8 seconds over Matt Wood in second. Nothing Matt Wood could do. Uglotti was just a cut above. Tapia Markela finishes third with Luke Dowding in fourth and Jorge Martinez rounding out the top five. Great race today from Ben Horrell, number 22 in terms of his iRacing. He finishes in sixth position with Emil Stanchu in seventh. He was up 7 places today with Samuli Veiranen in eighth. He was able to hold off Diogo Oliveira, who is the meat in the proverbial Veiranen sandwich. Brother Nico is there in 10th.
And you're going to have Cedric Beale just outside the top 10 in 11th after starting in 15th. So good recovery and a good move through the field as well for Liam Buckley and Cleve Toffoli as well, coming through from 18th and 17th on the grid to 12th and 13th. In the end, Seamitz comes home in at 14th. Nathaniel Porter from 21st on the grid to 15th. Not a bad day for him, as well as John Pat Kelly from 28th on the grid to 16th. And 24th from to 17th will be Philip Yates, John Owens in 18th, 19th to Tamashane, and 20th to Stephen Chantal. And then you're going to have all your retirements, unfortunately. Segro, Augusto, Nielsen, Rose, Branch, Lee, Griffion, and Nielsen do round out the 28-car field.
28 drivers then started this race. Only 19 were able to see the checkered flag here today. But there is more on the horizon in 1 week's time, ladies and gentlemen, because we'll be heading over to the Green Hell. No, not the full circuit. We're going to the Grand Prix layout. The Nürburgring is going to be our next port of call, which marks the halfway stage in the championship, and that's going to be worth watching here with SimSpeed TV. If you haven't already, you're brand new here, you can like, you can share, you can subscribe for more amazing content and more great racing coming up on the horizon, as so often does here with us at SimSpeed TV. A massive thanks goes to Motum Simulations, who have been ever so faithful with us on the replays for us today. Scott Fountain on the cameras for us today. And of course, Cam Dance on the left-hand side. I've been Jake Sperry, and it is once more Mateo Uglotti, his third win in 5 that we have seen this season. He's either first or he's second today. It's first once more. Nobody could hold a candle in the wind to how good he was in comparison to Matt Wood and the rest of the field, and one which he will definitely be saying is his statement of intent as he looks to the next round of the championship at the Nürburgring, looking to get his 4th win of the season, and more crucially than that, more daylight when it comes to the championship.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's going with the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.